Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy, and today is January 7th, 2025. And just recently, a new report has come out of the Middle East. The Biden administration has finally gotten their collective shit together and declared that acts of a Middle Eastern power was indeed descriptive of a genocide, but it's not who you think. So, if you enjoy news, history, or just general Americana, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I would be much obliged. Keep in mind, I am going to cover some heavy topics in the next few minutes or so, so for those of you who are triggered by those certain things, here's your warning. I completely understand that even small stresses right now can be a little overwhelming. The rest of you, sit a spell. Take your shoes off. This morning, the Biden administration has finally come to a rather somber conclusion and has finally taken steps to declare what it is seeing as genocide and calling it out for what it is as fast as possible. The problem is that it isn't very fast, and it took this long to make sure that they came to this determination. They have also chosen to follow through with this determination by imposing harsh penalties such as sanctions to those who are involved in the bloody inhumanities. Let us read from the public statement as presented by Antony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State. It says here, the IDF and IDF-aligned militias have continued direct attacks against civilians. The IDF and allied militias have systematically murdered men and boys, even infants, on an ethnic basis, and deliberately targeted women and girls from certain ethnic groups for rape and other forms of brutal sexical violence. Those same militias have targeted fleeing civilians, murdering innocent people escaping conflict, and prevented remaining civilians from accessing life-saving supplies. Based on this information, I have now concluded that members of the IDF and allied militias have committed genocide in Sudan. Wait a minute. Gee dang it. I have this all wrong, wouldn't you know it? I've been saying the IDF instead of the RSF, which is Sudan's Rapid Support Forces. Boy, is my face red. How on earth could I have read all that report and made such an error as to confuse this with what the Israeli Defensive Forces are doing in Gaza? That's right. While turning a blind eye and supplying the Israeli Defensive Forces in their activities in Gaza, the Biden administration is now stating that the RSF is in Sudan is guilty of the exact same activities that Israel is guilty of in Gaza. First, let's cover the issues that are indeed going on in Sudan. During a conflict that's been going on for quite a while now, Sudanese forces are reportedly looting houses while evicting residents of their homes, rampant sexual violence, and reusing hospitals and religious buildings as shields. Two factions currently vie for control over the country: the aforementioned RSF, who has been committing the atrocities, and the SAF, or the Sudanese Armed Forces, which are basically the regular military units in Sudan. Since the U.S. has been backing an independent Sudan and has been trying to build diplomatic ties with them over the past few decades, it makes sense that our government would make such a declaration given its interest in the country. Yet it continues to reinforce the IDF and Israeli forces after they've committed the same exact atrocities that are cited in this report. I'm going to say some shit that a lot of you are not going to like. But that isn't how growth works, so hopefully more of you appreciate it and take from this more than you use it to justify hating me in the future. The Democrats can look to arrogance and hubris of the Biden administration in absolutely contributing to Kamala Harris's loss. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm no Democrat. I'm a progressive, secular humanist. And what seems to be ignored by the government is how many of us have been ignored. Our anger in this with regards to the atrocities that are going down in Gaza, completely rejected by those who would rather not mess with established foreign diplomacy. You see, the government has forgotten how easy it is for its voters to receive information. The inhumanities carried out at the behest of Netanyahu through the military machine of the IDF have been widely reported on. The images of crying mothers holding their bloodied children so as they can get to the nearest medical facilities if they aren't leveled. The actual targeting of civilian filled hospitals. The forced eviction of both Gaza residents and those in the West Bank so that smug Americans can come in and take their homes and land for pennies to the dollar. To think that none of this has been seen or heard is arrogant, and to believe that the people it was rightfully pissing off in this country wouldn't be significant enough in numbers to lose the election is hubris. In the ongoing autopsy of this past election, it is astounding that this is being so intensely overlooked. It wasn't that people voted for Donald Trump in some huge, massive numbers. No. It was that so many potential voters refused to show up for Kamala Harris in some massive numbers. You want to know why? I kindly refer you to the treatment that was placed upon college students trying their damnedest to get y'all to listen. It was the acceptance of the mistreatment of those in Congress who were doing the same, like Rashida Tlaib, who was at least speaking for her own people, and Ilhan Omar, who was consistently and racially harassed for having the courage to do what so many others were not in supporting her friend in that journey. So hopefully, in this little dissection that continues to go as the circular firing squads reload, let's not ignore the glaring tumor that is the US's compliance and Israel's inhumanities while calling for us to have some decency in places like Sudan and Ukraine. Shame on you. Let's hope y'all don't fail to learn from this mistake as well. Because we've got some elections coming up in the next 2 years, and I think it might behoove y'all to learn from some of these lessons. So until next time, fellow nerds, y'all come back now. You hear?